Alright, we're going to do today, we are going to do a video of my commute to work. The purpose is to compare the version 10 software to the version 9 software and demonstrate some of the improvements. I think they're pretty substantial improvements. In particular, there's a couple spots. There's only one on my way. There's a couple on my way back, so I'll try to film that on the way back as well. But there were a couple spots where autopilot would misread the lane lines when going through an intersection. So it would pick up the left-hand lane marker on the other side as the intersection is the right-hand lane marker, and it would try to jerk me into the left lane inappropriately. So it is solved. So I think there's 4 scenarios where that happens on my way to and from work. It's definitely solved 3 of them. And last night, for the first time, it was able to successfully navigate the 4th one, but it's only done that once since I've had the update. So we will see. The braking behavior is much smoother now in version 10. I don't feel like I get jerked around nearly as much. All right, so we're coming up on one of the spots where autopilot is not being able to appropriately pick up the correct lane lines. When we go through this left turn up here, the lines are going to break. There's going to be an odd seam in the road, and watch these blue lines. You see, it started to go left. It figured out the lines were over here, and it corrected. So that to me, I'm going to pull it off auto steer so I can get in the turn lane. But that to me is a massive improvement. That means that one of 2 things, and I don't know which, or maybe it's all of the above. Number one, maybe the system is able to recognize and respond much faster than it was in prior versions. Number 2, maybe they're finally using the neural network to learn, because I go through that every single day on autopilot, and I manually correct for it. So I don't know if they're finally starting to use that data to learn new situations or to teach the car new behaviors. But whatever they're doing, I don't care. It works great, and I'm glad to see it. Like I said, there's 4 places. 3 out of the 4 now are working great, and with just one of them not working so great. I mentioned it in another video, but the resume from stop is also fantastic. It keeps with the cars in front of you much better. All right, as I said on a prior video, this around the turn braking works much better than it has in prior versions. See, it's already braking. I mean, it's way smoother. I mean, I know we had this car in front of us that was helping that time, but oftentimes you'd come around this turn and it would just literally jam on the brakes, and it was pretty frightening the first couple times, although I got used to it and started learning to trust it, but it just wasn't a smooth experience. Now it's smooth. And again, here's the resume, keeping pace very nicely with the cars in front of me. All right, so here we'll see a car turn and get out of my way, and I think the autopilot resumes from that scenario much better than it used to. I mean, it's still a little lethargic, but it's good enough that I don't feel the need to hover my foot over the accelerator pedal to push it along after a car gets out of my way. So big improvement there. It's pretty close. If you're just in, whoa, Jesus, dude. Holy cow, what the hell was that? So here we'll get to see another demonstration of how quickly it resumes from stop. And I know I keep harping on that, but it's literally probably one of my favorite improvements they've made in version 10, because before you either had to hover your foot over the gas or just succumb to the fact that you were going to be left way behind. So I mean, that's perfect. I literally have zero complaints. I love it. The other thing I've noticed is this is a very narrow road, so if a car gets close to me on one side or the other, sometimes, not all the time, but my car will shift a little bit in the lane just to give me a little more room. It's very subtle, and you probably wouldn't even notice it if you had never driven on the prior software version, but having driven most of my time in version 9, I have noticed that, and in particular on this road, because there are some people in bigger vehicles especially that will hug one side of the lane, and especially when you're going through turns and whatnot, it can get a little nerve-wracking just to let autopilot do its thing, but now it will actually shift, and it just makes things a little more comfortable. It feels to me like Tesla has built in some sort of exponential buffering of sorts, or I don't know if any of you are familiar with the term expo, but like I used to fly radio-controlled airplanes, and so expo was how much softness there was around the center of the sticks, or how numb it was around the center, so you can make it less sensitive, make your stick movements less sensitive. I believe that that Tesla, it feels to me like they've implemented something similar in regards to braking and in regards to lane shifts and things, just to smooth things out a little bit. And it's had a fairly dramatic impact, in my opinion. The only area where they've gone the other way is the acceleration when you're resuming from a complete stop in traffic-aware cruise. But that is a welcome change. It's maybe a hair abrupt and maybe a little more aggressive than how I would personally accelerate, but it's dramatically better than what it was. And the only reason I think that it's maybe a little overly aggressive is because the software still waits maybe a half second too long to resume, to get moving once the car in front of you moves. So it makes up for that with acceleration. But the stopping and the resuming is literally worlds better than it was on version 9. It makes your daily commute just really great, honestly. I'm blown away by it. The other thing you'll notice here, we'll take a good opportunity, is to show that there's no dancing cars. And of course, as I say that, these cars right here are kind of, it's having trouble picking up or positioning that car in front of this van here. But there's a pickup truck beside me. You can see it actually displays as a pickup truck, which is great. But they've solved the dancing cars. The cars don't dance around and spin and jitter. Every now and then you'll see what we saw here, which is this car kind of shifting up and back as the radar system tried to reconcile exactly where it was. But all good stuff. Alright, so right up here I need to bear to the right, so when we get a little closer I'll just give the wheel a little tug to take it out of auto steer. Put on my blinker. So I'll just take over just to make this turn. And then as soon as it sees lines again and gives me the steering wheel, I'll put it back in auto steer. So there we go, now we're back in auto steer. So this road's a little bit tricky. It kind of widens and narrows, and it's got some odd lane shifts. Autopilot handles it reasonably well. Every now and then I do need to take over. There's some nice braking around the turn. That's a welcome change. See, it's getting a little confused now. It just wants to make sure my hands are on the wheel. And up here we've got kind of an odd lane shift. You can see where the lane shifts with the turn lane. Yeah, so it was a little late figuring it out, but it did figure it out, so that was good. When I get caught up to these cars in front of me, that actually helps because it can key off of what they're doing. See here, it's not going to pick up, so I'm going to turn. So this is an area where, I don't know, they've got it blocked off for whatever reason. If I were following a little closer to those cars, it would have seen what those cars were doing and it would have followed them and I wouldn't have had to take over. These are some of the fringe areas, right? Some of the areas in the fringes that Tesla is going to have to get worked out if they talk about full self-drive in the city. So I hope they're logging out every time people take over. I know they say they are, but hopefully they're doing something with it. All right, up here I'm going to have to take over steering so that I can get in the turn lane. So I'll go ahead and take over. If I didn't do that, you'll see as this truck moves up a little bit, but there's a dotted line and the turn lane starts over here. So I have to take over the steering or else it would try to keep me in the straight lane. You can see to my left here, there's the lane actually widens a little bit, and it's a double yellow, so you can see the double line there, but it's having trouble figuring it out. Now it's lost sight of the line altogether. It is nice to be able to take it out of auto steer and still have it do the stop and go traffic for you. All right, so here I'm going to give the pedal a little bit of a nudge to get us out into this intersection. All right, I'm going to take over just to make this intersection real quick before these cars get here. So this pretty much ends my commute into work. I mean, here I'm just winding through one little business park or mixed residential commercial use development, and then my building is right on the other side of these buildings. So that pretty much ends my commute. But I think what you can see is that, you know, the large majority of my commute, even in the city or in the suburbs, is on autopilot. It's fantastic. Version 10 software has improved my daily commute for me in a couple of key areas. Number one, it now properly navigates some of those intersections that it was struggling with in version 9. But probably the biggest thing I've noticed is the braking and resuming when you're in traffic aware cruise. That is just outstanding. That's a dramatic improvement. However, I mean, I don't want to undersell the fact that it's now able to pick up those odd intersections and breaks in the lane lines like it did early in the video. That, I think, is showing a lot of promise for the future of a full self-drive. Well, that about wraps it up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, and y'all have a good day.